All right, awesome. We're all here live today to talk about podcasts, and we've got people with different perspectives. Folks who have been podcasting about higher consciousness, about tripping, about plant medicine, about cannabis. And since I know these folks and I've watched them hone their craft over the last few years, I just felt like it was time to share some of their wisdom with others. I'm sure there's a joke somewhere about two folks walk into a bar and one of them's a podcaster. I don't know how that goes, but we've gone from zero podcasts. There was a point in time where there was zero podcasts in the world, and now there's millions of them, and there's a lot of data that supports how many millions there are. And you can imagine with the long tail, there's some that get a lot of looks, and a lot of views, and a lot of traffic, and some that don't. So let's kick it off today. I'm Christian Gray, aka CG, aka Gray Matter. We can unpack that later. But what I was hoping is we just go around the room real quick, give everybody kind of a 1-minute intro, kind of focused or emphasizing what you're up to in the podcast world. And then we're just going to have a really interesting conversation about podcasting, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So Kat, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. And hey, everyone. Thanks, Christian. I started my podcasting journey in 2020. The world shut down, and I was like, this would be a good time to pick up a new hobby, which actually for me was really the start of a new life when I launched Trip on This, which is my psychedelic podcast. Trip on This has been going for 4 years. It's currently on hiatus, and it's changed my life. Yeah, I mean, through and through, every bit of my life is different because of that journey and the people I've met in it, now being a host and a DJ, and honestly, just getting to be a creative person in the world because I just took this crazy leap on myself to begin. And then I have another podcast called Life with Kat, which is going to be rebranded and relaunched next year as Cat's Meow Podcast. So that's me. Thank you.
Awesome. Cesar, what you got?
Awesome. I'm Cesar Marin. I'm the founder and owner of Cultivating Wisdom, which is a platform for people to obtain honest, open, and objective information about microdosing and about psychedelics. I have a podcast called the Love You Wealth Podcast. The podcast is dedicated to men to sort of focus on looking at life, not in the sense of chasing FU wealth, but chasing love you wealth, right? That wealth that sort of fills your heart. And as long as you have what you need, everything else is blessings. So I come from a broadcast background. I was a producer, a TV producer before getting into the psychedelic space. I spent 25 years at CNN. So have now brought my 25-year experience of mass media into my own ecosystem, my own platform, my own network. And also, trying to help people figure out the best ways to navigate, either being on screen or getting their message across.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing all that. And yeah, your background in television and producing is definitely playing a role in what you're up to. Brian, why don't you break it down? You're one of the, you're part of the team that I think has some of the largest reach and biggest impact in the cannabis space and beyond. So love having you here.
Oh, well, appreciate it, Christian, and good to be here with everybody. I'm Brian Haller, Chief Revenue Officer of Beard Bros Farms and Media. We are a product line and a media company, really, when it comes down to it. But yes, how those play off of each other and all the different channels that we've grown into. I myself have, been helping businesses grow for quite some time. I've produced or helped start, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of, I'm no shit, like 30 podcasts, probably something to that effect. We currently do 8 of them each month. And we have different hosts in the space that, sort of have specialties and they have, clients on them. For us, it's developing a channel, to continue to gain exposure in all channels for people. And then of course, it's important for us to push forward all these positive and good, strong messages about plant medicine, fungus, et cetera. And the whole sort of lifestyle that's associated with it. And fortunately, we're in a position where we are able to cover quite a lot of that and continue to grow into connecting the dots for sort of, for lack of a better term, mainstream audiences or, more sort of larger plays. It's just, ultimately I think the goal for all of us is to at least have the whole world know about plant medicine and fungus and these products and how it's going to grow and the history and where we're going to go. So we aim for that. And so, and we try to help people be informed and clients grow along the way.
I think you're muted over there, Christian.
What you got, George?
First off, I'm so stoked to be here with every one of you. Each one of you is a legend in your own right. I've gotten to see all your guys' work. I'm super stoked to be here. I'm George Monty, True Life Podcast. I got 850 episodes, ranked top 5 of all podcasts. Been doing it since 2019. I love learning and talking to people, and I feel like the podcast makes me an eternal student where I get to learn from so many unique people, from people at the top of their field to people just beginning to people in the struggle. I love psychedelics. I've used them almost my whole life, going on 30 plus years. I'm excited to be here today. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here and sharing some wisdom, not to riff too much off Cesar's cultivating wisdom, but, I think there's just so many people that want to start a podcast, or, you are hanging out, I don't know, around a fire, or maybe smoking something, and someone's like, I have a great idea for a podcast, or this guy would be an awesome guest, or this or that. And, I've been one of those people 5 years ago, Gray Matter. We're going to start the Gray Matter podcast. And I have the Google Docs with, here are the guests, and here's our vibe, and here's who's going to help me. And I won't name names because it never happened. But, I was given the opportunity, very much thank you to George, to kind of do a few collabs to just see what it's about, like get in front of the camera, get brutal feedback from friends about what you're doing wrong and the ugly pauses and where's the camera and how's the lighting. So I really wanted to focus this talk today, or the conversation, on either brand noobs, never recorded, never been in front of the camera, and some basics, like what they should be thinking about. And then there's a number of other people joining us that have been doing podcasts for a while, and we can all up level our game. So, we can spin it around the room, but maybe one or two of you can just chime in. And like, if you are brand new, like this was, maybe 2026 is your year, you're starting to get ready for it, what should you be thinking about? And what are some of the key things you can do to prepare to make it successful, or come out of the gates running? So Kat, let's go back to you, and then we'll bounce it around.
Yeah. I mean, I think so much of it, podcasting is about first planning and like not rushing in. I think it's very easy to think that you're just like, I just need a mic, and a friend to talk to. And it's so much more intricate than that. I would say, like, however much time you think it might take, it's probably 3 to 4 times more than that. And so planning is really going to be the thing that helps. George, you and I were talking about like banking episodes, right? Like, first of all, what's your why? Like, why are you doing this? And I think really being honest with your why is going to be one of the biggest. It's going to help define what your strategy is. Because, if you're just like, I just want to, I'm a coach and I want to, become a thought leader in this space, and I want to share some of my thoughts in depth, but your goal is not maybe to become the next Joe Rogan. That might actually inform if you're going to have a couple podcasts a month versus once a week or twice a week, like some of the Beard Bros stuff, right? Where if that's about media, it's a much bigger commitment. So I think getting very clear on what is your why, what would you like to happen, knowing that you can build on it. But what happens often with podcasting is people find out much more goes into it, and then they give up early. And so if you can set yourself up for success, bank a lot of those episodes, start with your community, start with who before you jump in when you're talking about guests, and thinking about how can you make it fun for yourself? I mean, really and truly, I think, if being a lifelong learner, like George is saying, and wanting to do this, whether or not 10 people listen or 100,000 people listen, like if it's still a yes for you, then just putting that plan together. And thanks to AI, I didn't have AI when I started Trip on this. So it was flying by the seat of my pants, folks. And I learned a lot in the process. But now we have so many resources and tools to be like, what is my plan? How many people should I be reaching out to? What is that process? I actually have like a full-on checklist, but I'm going to stop here, and I can talk about that later for anybody to go down a checklist of what do I need to think about even before I go into my strategy. So that's what I would say. Your why you want to do this.
Yeah. The what's your why makes me think about Simon Sinek. If you've never seen his piece on YouTube, and what's your why.
Oh yeah.
Really, really powerful. And bringing it back to, you have to really want to do this, whether you're making a dollar or a dime or a peso or a euro, because if money's your primary motivation, you may not be at it very long. Is kind of
Right.
You're not. Yeah, that's not what it's. I also think that good people, right, smart, intelligent people tend to overthink everything, right? So there's part of me that, while I completely agree with Kat, it's a lot more than just, hey, throw on the mic and let's rock and roll. You do need to have a little bit of strategy, a content plan. Like, what are we, why the hell do I even do this, right? So yes, I do think there's some structure, but I also think people overthink it and overanalyze and at a point, just flip the damn switch on and get rocking, make your mistakes, get out there. It's like Christian was saying, I still struggle with like and stuff like that. It makes me cringe every time. But the thing is, other people don't notice it as much, except for people looking for that are going to give you advice and take it, for God's sake.
And there's also tons of tools.
Right.
Sorry to jump in. There's also tons of tools. So if you don't know, like if you're listening to a podcast, like actually, and you're not watching people and you're like, damn, nobody ever says or like pauses. They do, folks. They're just that's editing. There's AI that can literally just edit that out. So you're gonna sound so dialed by the time you're talking. It's only on video. And even now with video, honestly, you're just going to see a lot of chip chops along the way. But yeah, if ums and ahs are a problem for you, there are solutions as well.
Yes. Well, and everybody's awkward. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like there's no one that doesn't think really that I've ever met that isn't sort of like, even the most like sort of front facing, person who's, they still in their head a little bit, or like, gosh dang, like I don't feel it today, all that good stuff. Like it's so normal. Like just like everybody's nervous. It's when the first time you jumped off the high dive, did you just go do it? No, you got up there and you were like, holy shit, all right, here we go. Come on, and you did it, right? That's how it is. And so that's okay, and it's okay to be that way. But yes, don't stall out, because if you really want it, that's going to really mess with you. Like, if you are that person that Kat pointed out, like you are about this is for you, right? That's going to mess you up too if you don't like just go,
There's really I've noticed even with George and I did a series of podcasts. This was 2018, 2019 during kind of the first round of the hemp bill passing and a lot of hemp seed and genetics moving into mainstream agriculture. And we did a series of podcasts. Some of them had several hundred people register, and we have 100+ farmers in there giving us their precious time and wanting to take care of them. And the dynamic tension I've seen with George and I is like, I want to do a tech call and a prep check and a choreography, and let's talk about like, just get on and hit the button. Like, so
totally.
Yeah. And there's different approaches to everything. So, where do you fall on that spectrum, Cesar? Is it get prepped, or show up, or something else?
I love that you sort of posed it that way, and I tell a lot of people this. Look, when I started working in broadcasting, you literally needed a studio, you needed cameras, you needed a control room, you needed a director, you needed to get it up to a satellite, you needed to buy satellite space, and you needed to then buy time on a network to get your message across. Now, literally, all we need is this.
That's right.
But the same way that CNN or a news station can have a program, if you're going to commit to doing a podcast, you have to be the same way. There has to be consistency. There has to be some time put into it. There has to be some structure. You can't just, let's turn on and just shoot the shit, because then one day you have a 10-minute podcast. The next week you have a 4-hour podcast, right? So whereas with that planning, with that preparation, and with that consistency, that's how you can really grow that podcast. And I love what you said, Christian, earlier, where it's like, if you're thinking, oh my God, I have a great, topic for a podcast, I have a great idea, let's do it, and we're gonna make a whole bunch of money. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Consistency, right? Huberman has been on for such a long time. It's been consistent. His topics are consistent. Joe Rogan, consistent. It's consistency, and that doesn't mean you have to do a podcast every day, but just be consistent. Be consistent with your, be consistent with your message. Be consistent with your offering. I think that once you do that and you sort of figure that out, and like you said, you plan. And I love what Kat said. There's a lot of AI tools that we can use, right? I don't have to sit here and go, oh my God, I got to come up with 20 shows. No, this is my idea. These are some of the guests that I have. What topics can I come up with? So it's It's a little bit easier than when I sort of got into production, into television, and into broadcasting. So there's a lot of these wonderful tools that we can use, but it's always that consistency. In other words, CNN, even if there was a day there was not great news or breaking news, you still had to do a newscast. You still had to be consistent. You still had to be part of it. And I think that's how you grow to your audience. And I think the other thing is personal stories. Like that's what, you know, there's almost everybody has a podcast, but what is it about your podcast? What is it about your story that sets you apart from everyone else that's out there? I think that that's it. Like, you know, find your niche, find your story, find your why, and then be consistent with it.
I think it's interesting to hear your perspective because in the old timey days, we didn't have George, I think, you know, the whole prep and then consistency, you know, you and I've gone around a little bit about like length of podcast, right? And, you know, Lex Fridman's got a pretty popular podcast, and that dude, I've listened on drives between Los Angeles and NorCal, you know, 6-hour podcasts on AI where Lex is going deep, and 6 hours is a lot. Now back to the editing. Sometimes I'll listen at 1.5 because I can still get most of the content and crush how long it takes to get through it. But talk a little bit about how you like to just let the conversation evolve or how long to let it roll, and maybe we can get some perspectives from the rest.
Yeah, I see the spoken word as an art form. And if you're going to start a podcast, whether you're a business or whether you're an individual, you're pretty much an artist. And the people that are going to come to you, your audience is going to be people that are attracted to you, to your voice, to your content, whether you're Lex Fridman that has this genius ability to talk to some of the most incredible people in the world and take from them, whether it's Kanye West or whether it's somebody from Harvard who's speaking about neuroscience. That guy has an incredible ability to bring about information that is contagious to the listeners. But it's so true for anybody that's going to start a podcast. You are a beautiful person. No matter anybody within the sound of my voice, you have a gift. You have something unique about you. And you have to have the courage to let that fly. And I think that sort of ability to have the courage to believe in yourself and to believe in others is how long the conversation is going to last. A good conversation for me is an hour. It's so difficult to bring about something beautiful out of somebody else in 15 or 10 minutes. And if you look at some of the popular podcasts, they're kind of going off the old methodology of we're going to cram everything into 10 minutes. Well, what is a 10-minute story? A 10-minute story is a bunch of facts with no real adjectives behind them. And that's not a very good story for me. I think each conversation has its own sort of time frame. And the better the conversation, the even though it may be long, it feels like a really short amount of time. So it just depends on who you're talking to. And like Kat said earlier, it depends on why. Like, why are you having this conversation? What's the point of this conversation? It's different for a business than an individual. A business may want to, you know, talk to some of their distributors and figure out why their products are good. An individual might just want to go solo and tell a story. So it's really dependent upon the individual and what message they're trying to get across.
I think it's also important in the sense that if you have a guest, you know who your guest is, not to the point where you have questions, right? Because then it turns into a Q&A. And that's, I think the best podcasts are the ones that are like we talked about, George, conversations. And the best way to have a conversation is one, knowing who your guest is, knowing facts of them, and then just have conversations by listening instead of sort of, okay, what's my next question? I got to ask my next question, and you're not engaging, you're not listening. Let the questions come from listening to what the guest is saying. Have that conversation. Don't make it, you know, this is me a Q&A. I'm going to bring in a guest and then I'm just going to ask them these questions, you know. And look, I've been a guest on several podcasts, and the ones that sort of are red flags to me are the ones that, can you give us 5 questions that you want us to ask you?
Right.
So I got a question because it's real time. I'm curious, you know, there's all these vanity metrics or metrics out there, whether it's, you know, number of views, number of followers, ad nauseum, and, you know, analytics matter and folks want to grow their base, et cetera. But I would love to literally go around the room and maybe we'll start this time with you, Brian, and then get to the others. Can you recall a moment where you got a warm fuzzy or a real sense of personal satisfaction because somebody heard one of your podcasts and then they brought it up to you, right? It's not a click, it's not a like, it's like a real world in the 3D. Someone goes, holy beep, I never had heard that before, or that was amazing. Thank you for sharing or getting it out there.
Yeah. There's fortunate to have a handful of those, you know, or a nice good handful of those. I suspect George, especially, and Kat probably have a bunch of, and Buff shit. Everybody on this call has a bunch of these examples, of course. And so, that's always pleasure. That's always awesome because that's what you want. You want like first person feedback. Yo, I heard it. I love this. Oh my God, of course you know, that's sort of what you're aiming for, of course, right? But it's also more important, I think, to aim for that as opposed to worry about those vanity metrics. On top of that, technology and everybody is able to analyze things a lot better now. So your network and its worth are very easily understood now where they weren't before, and it was a volume game. It's not the case any longer. People don't know that, but it's the truth. Like you don't need to. You can build out like whatever your community is. It's going to be valuable for you. So ultimately, that's basically what you're trying to build is a community. I don't care if you're a human just trying to talk to people about whatever it is that, you know, in your heart to, you know, be structured and talk about, whether it's, you know, hey, I'm a single mom and here's what it's like to be a single mom, or, you know, something like that versus business, as George was saying, but still the same thing. You want to build that community and you want to really nurture that community. You don't want to worry about too much everybody else outside of it, but you do want to have bells and whistles so they can get triggered and come on in and join, of course, right? So that's marketing and promotion and strategically having certain guests on and co-promoting and all that good stuff. But it really just comes down to what everybody's been saying on this podcast here, which is it really matters what's in your heart and what you want to do. And really, if you give a crap about what you're talking about, whether it's from a business or a personal standpoint, the people who mess with you, especially when you're first starting, those become super duper valuable. And you don't have to worry about what the perception is because now the powers that be and the tools and everything are geared towards this. So you don't have to worry. If you just continue to do what you're supposed to do, those things you sort of want to grow into will come to you. They will come as long as you commit, you're consistent to Cesar and George and everybody's point, and you really are about it, right? Like that's really what it is. You have to be committed, but you also have to be about it. You really do have to like want it at a really good level, and you have to want to grow that community. You really do. You have to like nurture it, not just through, you know, great podcasting, but through nurturing. Like, you know, hi, here's what we did, and here's what's going on, and you know, co-promotion, but promotion directed towards that community because you're learning about what your audience wants to see. And of course, that's always just a nice balance for you, right? Like it's your show, so you choose, but you got to listen to that data from your community and what they want to hear. And sometimes people have a hard time pivoting or adjusting in that way. I think you should really listen and be more sort of fluid in how you're building your.
Cesar, do you have a story? I mean, you've touched so many different people in different ways, especially I think, you know, folks that are on the other end of the age spectrum, right? Like some of your audience. Do you have any kind of anecdotes?
The first Love You Wealth podcast that we did, which I mean, I think I set the bar so high with our first guest, which was Rick Doblin, the founder and president of MAPS, and it was getting the sense of having a conversation with him as just a human. It wasn't about drug trials. It wasn't about what MAPS is doing next. It was just him as a human being. That was incredibly special. And it was good to hear from people who know Rick or know whatever, and to say, hey, I didn't know that about him. You know what I mean? That's the first time I heard about that. I think that sort of made it, that podcast in particular, special. And even though I was like, fan geeking the whole time, you know, because it's sort of
fanboy alert.
Fanboying. I was fanboying the whole time. It was this genuineness about having, again, this conversation with this person who has done so much, especially for what we're trying to sort of be advocates for, the sort of the non-stigma and, you know, acceptance of psychedelics. To really have that conversation with someone who's done so much was really humbling to me. It was really one of those moments that I always held special.
That's awesome. Kat, what about you? Like one of your shows that really, you know, made an impact or somebody spoke to you directly about it?
Yeah. I just want to say, like, even I have one story that I really can't wait to tell, but just I remember when I saw like 100 subscribers, like the first time I got to see that, just really taking a second to be like, for someone to give an hour of their time to you, is a huge thing, actually. And it's so easy to look at and how important that 100 is. And obviously, this is the human mind. As you get bigger and it starts becoming in, more zeros get tacked on, you start thinking like 100, like that's something that's obviously needs to check. But really thinking like 100 people decided to give their day to me, or, one full hour, because you could actually see the metrics. And I was like, wow. So just that alone was like, "Cat girl, look, you're doing it." Like, wow. When I really, really felt that though, was much of where I speak in my world is in the world of like rave culture and dance music. It's a huge part of my life. And I had Claude Von Stroke on my show as a big house music producer and DJ. And I went to a festival called Dirty Bird Campout. And it was my first big in-person press piece that I was doing for them, interviewing people for the podcast, being invited there as press, like, having all the bells and whistles because of it. And this was like after work now, and I'm just dancing. I'm alone, having a great time. And this woman comes up to me in her cute little rave outfit. She goes, "Are you Cat Walsh?" And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, and starts to cry to me and said, "Your podcast has changed my life. I've now come out of the closet around psychedelics. I've told my family about how they've changed my life. Like, you've given me the courage to talk about it." She brings over, she goes, "I need you to meet my boyfriend." Like, her boyfriend comes over. I felt like the biggest celebrity of all time. And it just was like, man, like, here I am just talking about how psychedelics literally changed my life. Yeah. And the fact that I knew in that moment that I was on this individual level, like giving permission for others to come out of the closet, because that is how we just destigmatize psychedelics as a whole, was just huge. And the last little bit I want to say is on my other podcast, which is much smaller, I feel like I was talking to just such smaller numbers in comparison to Trip on This, which is how most people know me. But Life with Cat was very, very personal to me. Obviously, it's about my life and my spiritual journey and everything. And a woman who, kind of like your Rick Doblin, Cesar, this is how you never know with like miracles. I get suddenly like reposted about how everyone needs to listen to Life with Cat, and she had like 500,000 followers on her thing. Like, she was already someone really doing it. And somehow my quote little story with having this like small podcast, I didn't even know how to market it, was touching her in such a profound way that she's sharing it on her story for other people to listen to. And that's what I always say to people is like, you really don't know how miracles and the way this thing works. Like, there's no to-do list for some of the incredible blessings that have come into my life by just saying, yes, I'm going to start and see what happens. And it's exciting.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me to, so much of the plant medicine, psychedelic cannabis space has been led by, outlaws and the underground and all these people that they're Georgia's people. If you didn't know, George is an just burn it all down. But, the ability to share authentically things that can be scary or were shame-based, or, people talking about their prison time or putting their family at risk, like real risk, right? Real personal risk. Yeah. And there's a risk in telling stories. There's a risk in being out in front of your community, out in front of your family. Yep. And it's not for everybody. So, I think this is a good place to pivot. Jesse's got a brilliant question, and I want to throw it in there. You want to go first?
I was going to say, I was actually going to feed off of what you were just saying, Christian, and look at Jesse's question. Jesse, look, at the end of the day, it's someone's opinion, and the only opinion that matters is yours. That's it. Criticism is always going to come, and criticism comes when you're doing something well. When someone, whatever, she's doing this, but it's this, but, so, and that's fine. Criticism is fine. It's all good. I think it's when we learn from the criticism, because we can say, hey, you know what? No, that's not what it's about. Or, hey, you know what? Maybe there's a point there. When we look at that negative or that criticism as something positive, or how can I use that negative to my positive? Because then if they want to be negative and they want to be sour and they want to have that energy and that vibration of being negative, that's up to them. That's on them. But for me, how can I use whatever someone's throwing at me negatively to see how maybe, you know what, or they're making a point and I can do better, or you know what, eat shit and die.
Yeah, basically.
It's my podcast. It's my podcast. I'm gonna do what I want.
Bingo.
Yeah, like it if you and here's the thing. If they're watching it, they're watching it. If they're commenting, it's because they watch it.
That's right. You must be doing something right if people are barking at you that way. That said, if the majority of people are barking at you that way, then maybe that's something you need to look at and analyze for yourself. But the other side of that is, I don't think, like, when you're that vulnerable, right, and when you're putting yourself out there like that, and then people cut on you as a result of that, that's tough at first. Like Jesse's question is very appropriate. You know, how do I get thick enough skin? It's just by repetition and doing it and not internalizing what you see. That's a big one. That is not you. That is not, like, what they're saying has almost zero to do with you often. It more has to do with them. It has a lot of different things that are going on. To Cesar's point, you should 100% look at what they're saying, but take it as like feedback if you can, regardless of how it was delivered. Right? That's one thing that not everybody's articulate. Some people understand clickbait or whatever, or just trying to get a little buzz too, or they just don't know how to ask you a question in a way that's, appropriate. Maybe they were triggered by something you said and they reacted. You know what I mean? Like those are things that you have to remember that are going on with those people, in their heads. You should not internalize that, but
we should go a little deeper into this because what I'm kind of hearing from you folks is like constructive criticism, or people are taking a shot at you about this or that. George, have you ever had a personal attack where someone's like, what are you talking about?
Listen, let me tell you this.
850 episodes. I'd be no one has ever disagreed.
When it comes to podcasting, there's a lot of shit that you don't even know what you're talking about. You're going to get on the mic and you're going to say all kinds of things. And you're going to realize I'm a fucking retard. I am dumb. I should have not have said that.
You probably should have just said that. You're going to get a whole segment.
Not PR.
Yeah.
Really but anyways, you're right, though.
It's probably the most important part, though, because you have to understand, like, you don't know. Like, you're going to go on and talk as if you're a expert in something, but you're not. Like, you are a person with an opinion. And there are really, really intelligent people out there that know exactly what they're talking about. So if you get some negative feedback, you should be like, oh shit, I need to read up on this. Is this person right? Like, that negative feedback. And you guys all know this. You can get 1,000 great comments, but it's that one negative comment. You're like, why'd they say that? How come they say that? I don't even like this person. And you go through that whole defense mechanism of like, these people are wrong. But that's where the gold is. Where you stumble is where you find the gold is. So when you get that kind of feedback, Jesse, that's gold. Like, who is this person? What are they talking about? What don't I know? And that's a good invitation to invite that person on and have a real discussion with them. That's where the good content is. That sort of discrepancy in what you know. Like, that's what people want to see. They want to see the conflict. It's nice to talk about things that are flowery and beautiful, but that conflict is contagious. People love that. They want to learn. And that's where the learning is done, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's the real conversations that happen, is when you have diverse opinions. If everybody's all singing from the same hymnal about everything all the time, it's not the most interesting conversation. So it's good to have diverse opinions today. Do you guys want to talk a little bit? Because I think you touched on it, Brian, but how do you grow your base? Like, how do people find you? Is it word of mouth? Is it an email campaign? Is it socials? Is it the AI in the sky? Like, how do people find out about your podcast, and do you even put effort and time into growing it?
It depends. Yes, we do, because ultimately the channel itself, right? Like, just podcasting in general is such a valuable one. And people, it's very easy to, like, people love those conversations, whether they're in a B2B situation or individuals. So the way that we do that is, fortunately, we have a lot of different channels that we maximize, and so we're able to promote, work it into the equation of our own DNA and our own processes, but also with our clients as well. And so, how do you do that? Well, people, like, we keep it basically like, people who are on the show are not paying to be on the show.
Play. There's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other topic.
But you can promote a show, or you can promote our network and be seen, right? So there's a fine line there, and that's for other people to decide. This is not like, I'm not here to tell you how to monetize your platform, but ultimately that's how we parse it, because we're a trusted media outlet. So I feel comfortable saying, yep, these people are collaborators, so they can collaborate. These people pay, and our job is to try to make sure that the audience is still respected, and that it is, and that the sort of tone and voice is still that sort of Beard Bros feel, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you do that, I think you can do a lot, right? And so ultimately, it's a matter of marketing yourself, yes, but there's a lot of innovative ways to do that, right? Like Kat Walsh would have a different approach than what we do to a degree because she's Kat. And so her brand, is the business, right? Whereas me, Brian Holler, I'm a nice accentuation to the Beard Bros platform, right? I'm a leader in the org, right? So I personal brand, and I promote in that way, right? Or we strategically, yes, if we like a prospect or somebody's has a good following and we feel like we can get them on a show, yes. We want to make sure that we can promote to their audience too, because it's about not only that pro-promotion, but that merging of audiences. To George's point earlier, confrontation or discussions that are, not necessarily contentious. I mean, that does work too. But if there's a nice debate point there that makes a lot of sense for everybody, that's where the sweet spot is, I think, because you can still co-promote and everybody's friendly, but you have enough of a difference where it's like, hey, this is important to talk about. We really need to drill into this because this is common in our space, right? And so that's how basically we market. It's word of mouth, but it's also paid ads, and it's also, pushing forward on email and social and making sure that you're maximizing clips and things like that to a degree, right? If you don't record live, then that gives you some advantages in that respect as well, which we don't. If you do, then just make sure that you're promoting afterwards and you're doing something to continue to nurture that, and also take advantage of like sub sort of communities that you can easily tap into, like an IG channel or like a, or like a LinkedIn group or, different things like that. You can really just continue to grow that community, and everybody really does feel like they're part of something special, that they're part of like, oh man, I can't wait to tell everybody because they don't know about Kat Walsh, or they don't know about Cesar, they don't know about George. Like I'm going to tell them, because it's really cool shit, right? And then basically for the hosts, like Kat was explaining, that's where some real magic can happen, because all of a sudden somebody who really is somebody catches a wind of you and likes you, and all of a sudden it's like they're co-promoting you just because they like it.
Yeah, well, this is
a whole lot of options open up.
Yeah, we can do a real time here. I'm curious because Cesar, you do. I think out of all of you, I've seen you on stage the most live, and Kat's done a bunch of shows. Where do people find you? How do folks find out about Cultivating Wisdom on the podcast side?
So I think so. I was going to say two things. One, email. Email's your gold. Email is your gold. And during your podcast, incentivize people to give you their email. Hey, we'll give you this free top 10, whatever. Incentivize people to give you their email, because when you have that, then you have a captive audience. Then you have an audience in it. And if through that email you use promotions, you have maybe a newsletter that goes along with the podcast, you're giving people what we would call on TV appointment viewing. Right? There's an appointment that I know that on Tuesday I'm going to get that newsletter. I know the podcast is only once a week or once every 2 weeks, but I know I got that newsletter. So that, and the other thing is reels. You can literally take a half an hour podcast and cut it into 20 different clips to put them out there, because that's how people are going to find you. They're going to find you mostly because they're on social media, because there's a small clip of you. They're not going to sit and find your whole podcast. But if they find that one clip, and that one clip is engaging, that one clip is interesting, that one clip leaves you curious, like, wait a minute, hold on a second, I have to hear more. Like, I have to stop what I'm doing. Where's that link to go listen to that full podcast? That's the trick to keeping that captive audience. The other thing I tell people, and I've seen this a lot, remember, you're talking to people. So find where that camera is and talk to that camera. That's how you engage people. That's how people feel like, wait a minute, Caesar's talking to me. George is talking to me. Kat is talking to me. Christian is talking to me.
I'm talking to that guy over there.
I find a lot of podcasts, and especially when we're the host and we're also producing the show, and we're also trying to sort of find out different information. If you can't take yourself off camera, put the other person on camera. If you're doing it post, it's sort of that sense of engagement, that sense of me feeling that you're talking just to me. You're not talking to a whole podcast. You're talking just to me. I think that's really important.
I want to grab this question from Jacob. Hi, Jacob. He's also here in Oaxaca, and I think it's pretty interesting because he's asking specifically about the value of dialogue versus monologue. And I'm wondering, George, for sure, I know you have some monologue because some of those early shows I've listened to them, and there's a very different dynamic, right? You're a solo conversation. From your perspective, can you keep the audience's interest? Do you have enough charisma and presence to talk for 45 minutes or an hour and make it land? Or is it really all about interviews and having a dialogue with someone else? Kat, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who's had literally two separate both my podcasts, so Trip on This is a conversation-based podcast, so I'm interviewing people on it. And then Life with Kat was quite literally a solo podcast. So it was just all monologue. And in terms of my personal love is, I love the monologue format just because I can giggle and go off just a silly stream of thought. And I found that even though Trip on This was a bigger podcast, the overall feedback that I would get actually was people fucking loved Live with Kat. Those that were on board with wanting to, I would cry and I would, laugh and I would say and ah, and I talk about stumbling all over myself, but I purposely really did not want to edit that podcast because I wanted it to be like we're just friends having a chat. And because of that, there was this camaraderie I think I built with the audience that was quite different than Trip on This. Though with Trip on This, I still liked to do that at times and I would tell stories. But I did see I know Jacob's question was around engagement. And for me, when I engage you, the camera, the listener and the viewer, and you can really drop in and actually feel like you really are talking to them, and I do think that takes practice at the end of the day, getting comfortable and realizing that's just practice at the end of the day. But yeah, I just want to quickly I want to end on that, but also guest collaborations, just going back to the guest format and growing your podcast is having your guests collaborate with you, collaborate on posts, leaning into their audience is a really great way to build and cross-pollinate. And having really smart, now that I've noticed, smart SEO or AI terms, right? Like keywords. I have a podcast that went really big because I think I just said growing mushrooms and I had the right words where people just discovered it because they were looking for topic specific things. So really remembering that sometimes people just put the name of their guest and that's fine. That's a choice. But if you're not a big person, you're not Lex Friedman yet, it might be interesting to grab people that are quite literally looking for that very specific thing that you are laying down in that episode. So I just want to go back to that and I'll.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
We can go
love that.
You. So
I think that format matters too. Podcast is a pretty broad term now. There's a lot of different ways to do a podcast. For instance, we did an Ask Me Anything, which is a very very known format, but very different than a conversation, right? It was somebody's moderating and then there's somebody on the hot seat being asked questions, right? Generally speaking, a VIP of some kind or somebody that right? Or somebody's influential in the space. That's one way to do it. Also, there's certainly monologue versus dialogue, right? Some shows mix it up, right? Some shows, some people use the monologue as a way to point to the show, right? They build their brand through monologue and then point to that. There's a lot of ways to go about it. I agree with Kat though that in terms of intimacy and real me to you, when I'm looking at this camera and there's nobody around and I'm looking right at you, that's about as intimate as you can get in the format, beyond just being there in front of somebody, right? That said, I think in a general sense, it's easier to capture more interest if you're talking with somebody, right? So general interest or people who didn't know you from Adam and oh, shoot, let me go here. You're more likely to maybe tap into that because of your guest maybe, or the general theme of your show or whatever, as people kind of flirt around with you as you, get known on social and build out your audience and stuff. But then of course, the opposite. And once you have done that, then yes, working some monologue, I think into there is real because, it is the you gotta be good at it, to Kat's point. That's a big one.
That's a high wire act. You better craft your skill a little bit.
I was gonna say definitely monologue podcast. The ones that captivate the most are the ones that are good storytellers.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a good story. So if that's what your niche is, if that's what you're planning, hone your storytelling skills. Hone that first.
I
That's
think that's why you got
the
a lot
best
of
way.
comedians that are really great podcasters, make tons of success.
Mhm.
And a
Yep.
lot of them have a lot of things they've dealt with, right? That's a lot of things that make, a comedian very effective, right? I think that's why you have a lot of successful ones. And then the smartest ones, like a Theo Vaughn or whatever, have really just leaned into themselves. Like he's now more personal coach, self-help than he is like funny or interviewing people.
Mhm.
Why? That's what his niche was. He started evaluating himself, and he realized his guests were really into that. And then everybody experiences, bullshit, as they go on. And so he was basically able to tap into that. So he leaned into that. And he's really famous to begin with. So he didn't necessarily have to do that, right? Did Joe Rogan always have the format straight out the gate? No, he didn't. If you went back and looked, it wasn't always 3 hours at first. I mean, he kind of grew into it, understood, like, oh shit, like, this is working for me. Let's go, right? So I think a lot of people can sort of take some, solace in that. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and there's a lot of, and again, it goes back to what we've been talking about this whole time. You got to start, got to be consistent, got to have a plan.
Good segue, George. I know you've been playing with some of these tools. I've even heard, I won't name names, that some people use AI to help do introductions for some of their amazing guests. Yeah, I don't know.
Talking about?
Yeah, but let's talk a little bit about what Clint's bringing up, like AI for podcasting. Where does it show up for any of you? Like, what are you using it for? Is it post-production and the edits you're talking about, Kat, or is it getting prepped and maybe even if you want to be in the flow, but you want to have some good prompts or questions, Cesar, it might be interesting to analyze a guest and see what they find out in the internets with AI doing some analysis or research for you. It just saves you a little bit of time at the very least, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
George, Cesar?
George, I was going to say real quick, George, with tools, obviously, whatever platform you're using is going to be your first real AI massive tool that you use. Let's say Riverside. Riverside is a platform where you can record your podcast, and then you can literally tell it, hey, give me 5, 30-second clips where I'm talking about this or the best, whatever, and it'll literally put them out for you. So in other words, make sure that at least that first AI tool that you're using is the tool for your platform that you will be recording on, that you're going to get the most out of it, that you're able to cut clips, that you're able to get a transcript of the show, because then you can throw that into AI for your intros for SEO stuff that you're going to get in there. So just make sure that that first AI, the most important one to me, I think, is that your platform that you're recording your podcast on has as many bells and whistles that you can get right from there.
So we'll bring up Riverside. I think I have a screenshot so people can anchor it, and then maybe we just go around the horn. Like, what platforms are you using, and then we can kind of come back to the AI implications on it. So, Cesar's Riverside. Kat, what do you use primarily for streaming or management?
For my recording or for AI tools?
Yes, and
okay. Well, what I want to say is AI is moving so quickly that I feel like hopefully what I say is not outdated, because I've been on a hiatus for about this year. But the one that I did use was, so if you have Premiere Pro, which a lot of people don't, but if you do, there's a plugin called Autopod, I believe it's called, that will not only auto cut your, if you say you have 2 angles even, it will go in between cameras based on the speaker and chip chop it up. So suddenly you, in 6 minutes, it'll go through an hour long, and you have different angles, and you name the speaker so it can understand, this is, you name Cat, you see my picture, that's Cat, my voice, Cat, and then my guest, Christian. And so it's just going back and forth based on what it's hearing. It's pretty incredible. Now, that being said, it was still enough oversight. It was still I have to watch it, right? I'm a little bit picky when it comes to the creativity I put out there. So I have yet to see a true AI, straight. Descript is another tool that uses kind of what Cesar is mentioning, which is using basically Riverside and Descript both use the script, basically the words, and you can cut out ums and ahs, so we can actually cut that out for you within a second. Not as much creative cutting that I've seen with those platforms, like Autopod, for instance, where you can actually go in between different multicams if you have a multicam. A lot of people don't. A lot of people do remote podcasts. I've used Riverside. I like it. I don't know if I'm going to be jumping back into it for myself, other than I don't think I use enough of the tools for myself to justify it. I think I'm going to try OBS Studios, which is a free broadcasting platform. It is a little bit more of a setup, but you can actually kind of flow through. You can have like an opening card. Like if it's like a streaming, if it's a live stream, you could have like a coming on soon, and you have to press it, or a producer, but it's right in front of you. And you just kind of press between, like, now's your intro plays, and now you can press onto yourself. And that can also be live streamed. So that's where I'm going to be tootling around for myself. When it comes to the social media, though, my big thing is I feel like visually, if it just looks too, this is where I feel like I can get out of my own way a little bit, but I like full screen. I like it to feel as native to social media as it can, not like stitched together videos from podcasts. I feel like they don't pull in as much engagement. I don't know if it's actually using monologue with clips. Like I'm talking about psychedelics and this with a neuroscientist. Check this out. And then you just throw in your clip. But something that pulls, I find that like just conversations, unless you're saying something so hot and sexy or outrageous or something, people can kind of get a little kind of blur over a little bit if they just see like just peering in at a conversation.
Yeah, I know. So I want to be thoughtful. We're coming up on an hour. Some folks have a hard stop and they might need to peace out. Some might want to stay around a little bit longer. So anybody want to say goodnight and you hanging? Everybody hanging for another 15, 20 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm following George's lead. You know, he likes to do these 2-3 hours. We got
We're just
nothing
getting
else.
warmed up. We're just getting warmed up, man.
So yeah, a lot about platforms. So Riverside, StreamYard, OBS. We've got 3 or 4 of these in the. If you want to pull them up, just the screenshots, George, to help educate folks, whether it's Clint or Jonathan. What's been your default platform, George? What are you using? Or should I not ask you while you're bringing things up?
You know what? I've used a variety of them. I've been on multiple places that have Riverside. I like that as a platform. I use StreamYard. My podcast is more of a live stream. Like I used to do a lot of editing and uploading there. But what I have learned is that takes a lot of time. And if you're just an individual who has a really cool message, or you're someone that wants to talk to lots of people and get that message out there, I feel like the live stream is the way to go. I feel like there's a much more authentic conversation that happens. A lot of the times where people stumble is where the gold is, like we said earlier, right there. Like those are good points to talk about. It's also a great reflective tool to go back and listen to what you had to say and realize where you stumbled. I like StreamYard. I've met and talked to some of the people that created it. And I like the fact that it's an easy way to stream at one place and have your content pushed to all your other places. You could stream to 5 channels, 7 channels, or 15 channels. It also gives you the freedom to bring on other people. It allows individuals that come onto your platform on StreamYard to stream to their channels. So now you can leverage not only yours, but each individual can stream to 2 of their channels. So you're going to get a lot more reach with StreamYard if you're going to go with a streaming platform. There's so many cool tools out there. On the topic of AI, I believe it's sort of a flashy frame. It's like a flashy jacket. I think your content is what's important. And while AI tools are amazing and they're beautiful, they're kind of dangerous because you can get so caught up in the minutia of trying to put up good clips or trying to do some really cool pre-production that you're taking away from the conversation that you should be having with people. That time should be spent focusing on the person, reviewing the person, understanding their message, and your content is what's going to ultimately grab people out there.
Tools I can also sort of address Jonathan's question too via the tool thing too, right? Do you recommend both audio video formats or just success with audio? Recommend both and build it into your process, right? If you can. It's not too hard to establish a Spotify account or an Apple Music account and then just rip your file that you did on StreamYard, which is what we use too, George, and ultimately put it up there. Just bake it into the cake of your process. That's another thing I wanted to talk about is its process, which is different for everybody, right? We do
Mhm.
7, 8 a month, and there's distribution and, you know, all this stuff. But the process also can help dictate your tools. And so, you know, what you're doing could be maybe influenced by that. That will help you decide on which tools to use, right? You're you know, just you, maybe you want an all-in-one, or maybe if you have Premiere Pro like Kat does, that might be, you know, AutoPod might be a cool option for you. You've heard us talk about Opus several times on this. That's a great one for clips. You can just throw your, you know, your large file into there, and it'll automatically create a bunch of them, and it'll prioritize by what it thinks will be the most viral, which is pretty darn cool. And that allows you to basically bake that into whatever your content, you know, distribution cake is. That's up to you and what you're doing. Let's see. Obviously, we talk about ChatGPT a lot. Great for prep and, you know, and all sorts of different things. Also, Canva. Is a good one, right? You know, you're creating graphics, or you're, you know, getting things, you know, done that way. We also use or Podcastle or like Clean Voice. It depends, but yeah, those are ones that clean up your ums and ahs. And then there's all-in-ones too. There's, you know, there's some, like what's it called? And I'm not very familiar with it. Alifu, or what is it? Alitu? Yeah, that's right. It's Alitu. Sorry. And that's a nice little all-in-one. You know, and you're going to see more of that for sure. Riverside, as you can tell, has grown into that. You know, they're just one of the more preeminent ones, so the pricing is a little higher. Some stuff like that, you know, and it might not be right for you. It just depends, you know. But it's also about distribution. Like, it's about, you know, how you're putting it out there, right? And I liked George's point. Don't get caught up in the minutia, because boy, oh boy, that will water you down.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, so
yeah, lots of
it's important though to distribute. So again, it comes to this whole thing. Like, this whole conversation has been about, like, yo, there's a fine line. You got to just pull the trigger, but you got to be prepared. You have to basically, you know, go here and go to these places, but don't get bogged down in the marketing and promotion. Yeah. This is all true. Yep. That's why it's not easy. It's not cut out for everybody. Not everybody's cut out to do it. Not every business has to have one. Not every person has to have one, right? So, you know, ultimately, really, 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 you know, focus on what's the best tools for you, not just within budget, but for what you're trying to do, really. Yeah. Like, focus on that.
I'm super curious because, you know, we've talked about some newbies or rookies or people are just going to, you know, be jumping into the podcast pool in the next few months. What is the real, like, give you all a minute to think about it, and then we'll go around the horn just quickly on this. It's like, how many hours, if you think about it from the minute you think about a guest, and then you reach out to them, and hopefully you connect, and you maybe do a pre-interview. Other folks don't. They just want to get it live raw the first time. Then you have the day of, right? And you have your promotion engine. So you got to send out the links, and you might be doing an email to your list Cesar's talking about. So now you've promoted it. Then you have day of. You don't just show up the minute the show starts, right? You're there 30 minutes early or 15 minutes early. Your guests are showing up. Now you turn everything on. You got your distro rolling. Well, it's not over when you're done. Now you're done. Now you got post-production, potentially AI or a human, you know, so just all of you just think about it for yourselves. No right or wrong answer, but just come up with a number of hours per episode, whatever frequency, whether you have a team or not, that you have to put in to do a good show. And then we'll just go around quick answers, and then we can kind of unpack what goes into that. But George, let's start with you. How many hours or how much time do you put into a show?
5 hours is standard
5
for me.
hours. All right, 5 hours for George. And does that include the 3 hours you're doing the actual podcast?
My longer, like, I would say it's average 5 hours. If I'm going to do a long podcast, it's probably closer to 8.
Roger.
For an hour show, 5 hours.
Kat, what do you put into yours? Because it's probably different, like when you're doing the trip on this versus the life of, yeah?
Yeah, I would say very different. I'm going to go trip on this just because life with Kat's much more low lift for me, but probably closer to 9. I also like I'm a woman, so like I get ready, like there's really stuff like to be thinking about, and I do a question outline. I do like to research my guests, especially if I don't know them. Like, I'll be listening, so it could sometimes be more like 9 to 12, depending on the podcast.
So we got a 5-ish from George. We got 9 to 12 with Kat. Cesar, where are you coming in?
I was going to say, again, it sort of falls in between that, you know, it's 5 to 10 hours, right? Again, how long is the podcast? How much information is there for me to research on this guest? How much prep am I going to be into this? You know, is this someone that I know? You know what I mean? And we're just going to shoot the shit. Or is it someone that I really need to research and have some good information so we can have this conversation? And then the most time consuming, obviously, if you're not doing it live like George does, which I think is brilliant. I think there should be more live content out there. There has to be. Right? Everything's so packaged. Everything's so perfect. Everything's
Hey,
so.
this is live.
You know.
This is live.
Yeah. No. So yeah. So I love this.
We're not editing
More.
Like
More.
this is an adult program.
Yep.
More of this, but then afterwards, let's say something like this, if it's not live, then do we go into post and let's put some video here, let's add something here, let's add some text here, let's add the website, let's add that. All adds up. That all completely adds up. And if you're editing, yes, of course, if you have a tool like Riverside where it's going to edit a lot of things for you, that's fine. But you also have to go back in and, hey, you know what? Is the person that's on camera at that time the person who's actually speaking, or did Riverside make a mistake and they just had the guy sitting there looking off, picking his nose or whatever it was, right? So that all takes time. So I'd say between 5 and 10 hours, right? 5, that really smart show. It's quick. It's dirty. It was a great conversation. 10 hours. You know what? This is going to need some time. This is going to need some love. This is going to need some polishing. This was a really good guest that I really want to make sure that the audience gets the most of it. It's going to be 10 hours for an hour show.
Yeah. And sometimes longer. If you're doing all the editing, like if you're trying to edit audio and trying to edit the video manually, which I did in the beginning of Trip on this, it would be days. Like I was like, I'm doing 5 jobs. I don't sleep. Try this. This is insane. I have found that the live is great, but I just wanted to also mention that, like, depending on how much editing you decide creatively for your podcast, you might be doing a hybrid storytelling conversation type of thing. The more intros and things like that, like some of the platforms have it built in, but sometimes that's editing, and sometimes it's creative editing if it's not just a conversation. You know, if you want music in it, right? There's a lot of different types of podcasts.
And I think out of the 4 of you, 3 of you clearly are kind of more in the solopreneur, getting it done yourself. Brian, you guys have a team, right? There's more.
We have guests, or we have hosts for each of our podcasts that are, collaborators close with the org, etc. We want to just basically people who we respect and admire as thought leaders in the space that had specialties, right? Like a retail, finance, culture, marketing, etc. My show with Aaron is really about talking to leaders in the space about their sort of personal journey that they went on along the growth of their company, or how they got to like where they are, right? And we focus on sort of, it's sort of like a men's mental health and like, different things like that, or just mental health in general, I should say. We have lots of women.
So with all 8 episodes a month being pumped out by the Beard Bros Network, how many hours are you putting in personally when you're a guest versus like when, the whole team? Yeah.
So there's 2 things I want to talk about. One, like when you have that sort of situation going on, you got to shrink that 10 hours to, 5 or something if you can, right? Without losing credibility or losing the feel of the podcast. That's really hard. Not for everybody. That's tough. But also the CRO in me is like, hey, by the way, you're not only doing work, you're also promoting someone else. And there's a price to that. It's not just about hours. There's a cost to the production of each podcast, and there's a dollar sign that you can attach to it. And once you know what that is, now you're ready for a lot of other opportunities, because now you will be able to pitch, or you'll be able to get sponsors. You might be able to get, and as long as you understand where you are in the hierarchy of everything, once you hit a good threshold of a few thousand followers, and maybe you got 500 folks on like YouTube or whatever, you can start chipping away at this. You can like offer a very modest package and start going for it. So again, the money guy in me cannot just sit here and let us talk about time spent and, let's just give all this away to everybody. Fuck that. Like, ultimately, you definitely have to figure out a way to do what you want to do. The best way to do that is to basically work with the businesses that are largely affected by what you're talking about, because they're going to give a shit. And if you're really personal too, right? This is why all these other people on here kill it so much. They know this, and they are themselves, and it allows them to basically not have to be businessy, but attract businesses. Right?
Although I need you over my shoulder, Brian, be like, you should charge for that. Be like, good call.
So just remember that too. So again, for us, it's probably about 3 to 5 hours, 5-ish for each podcast. But thankfully, we have a lot of process and structure, and we've been doing it 2 years, and we continue to improve the process through tools, collaboration with our hosts. There's a lot of ways to like galvanize, especially if everybody's got skin in the game. So
yeah, I think Jacob, he was either reading your mind or you were reading the question before you.
Yeah.
Nice job.
How do you indirect or direct? And I think we don't want to shy away from hairy topics here. So pay to play, right? There's podcasts where you literally write a check to get in that seat and be interviewed. I'm not going to make a judgment about that business model. That's, if you're a journalist and you're trying to put out objective news, that may not be the right play, but I know conferences that charge to put you up on the dais as well, right? Or on a piano. So pay to play is a business model, whether it works for you or not, or your integrity with your audience. If you disclose it, that's a different issue. What are some other ways to get monetization? We know advertising, sponsorships. You got a lot of stuff going on with Substack and Patreon. Like where do the dollars actually flow for any of you that you actually know that like this works? This brings in dollar bills.
Oh, I would love to hear from like Kat or
go.
So I can talk to you about this from our perspective, but I want to hear about like the people want to hear how solopreneurs are doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this has always been the one where I would have loved actually to have someone like you, Brian, like on my shoulder when I hit 2,000 listeners to understand that was enough to make a play. Because I think understanding like the warped nature of like how to price myself has been a journey with Trip on this. Ultimately, say it again.
It's very hard. Very hard.
Yeah. And I didn't really know anybody actually to like ask. I probably could have, but I think I was maybe shy about it. And I think that's probably what I would learn going forward is like literally just have open conversations with people and creators and podcasters on how to really make it work, because resentment can come up if you are working really hard and you are in the red, which I was in the beginning, and had to really shift my mindset around when am I worthy for sponsorship. Long story short, have gotten to a place where I have sponsorship money, certainly like a very traditional way from brands. There's not a ton of brands that I've noticed yet, although I haven't really made a huge push because I have Trip on This is on hold right now anyway. But it was like brands like you're saying, like, ones that either are very pro psychedelic and they're like openly psychedelic, or they're kind of in the space. I haven't yet. I've tried to kind of reach some maybe of the more like mainstream brands. And I think psychedelics as a whole was still a little bit of that. Full disclosure, I was talking to one of the large talent agencies at one point in their podcast division. And I think what it ultimately came down to for one of the team is how do we sell this to in real many zeros, right? Because that's how they're thinking. They're thinking of if we produce a show, it's $300,000 a show. Therefore, the revenue has to come in. So as a person to make some money, I think there's like smaller brands that are doing it. I would be curious to hear from these guys if there's big money coming into the psychedelic space in terms of sponsorship. And then like other events, hosting events, DJing events, because I'm an online presence, like now I'm a content creator and a voice on social media. I now have a brand that other companies now tap into to, use me as now like an asset for them indirectly, right? You're asking about like indirect. Yes, there are social media views, but like there's that. And I'm going to be starting a Substack as well. So yeah, this has been a little bit of an anomaly for me as well. It's been slower than I didn't know how to do it in the beginning, but I started to come around to it.
I definitely want to get after Cesar and George around this, but one of the things that comes to mind for me is, Kat, you should ask me next time you want to figure out some monetization. Happy to
I would.
help.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
People like Brian, right? Like the fact that he's working with so many different brands and there's a network, like people like, I think us inside the tent want to help each other, right? Like whether it's cannabis or psychedelics, because it is so hard to make a real living that's legitimate, that is not putting you in harm's way. And like we talked at the top of the hour, like if you're trying to pay your rent, if you're trying to make a mortgage, if you're growing a family, right? You got college in 18 years, podcasts may not be the way to get there, but I feel like it's another spoke on a hub, right? Like, everybody can self-publish now. So you can be an author, but you can also, like, with a Substack or articles, but you can write a book and get a self-published book pretty easily. Don't plan that book's going to take you to the bank, but it might open up consulting opportunities, or it might open up other things. Same with the podcast. And really, I see the partnership that you have with like District 216 and Jacob, is you guys really are helping each other grow in so many interesting ways. And it's all the things outside the podcast that can potentially monetize, like you getting DJ gigs or you being brought in the conference host or whatever. So love all that. Cesar, George, where are you seeing the dollar bills? I see some merch behind you, Cesar.
Yeah, well, again, merchandising is important, right? It's your message of what you are, what you're doing. The more you can promote that, that's it. It falls off the tree, as they say in español. Se cae de la mata. The other thing is affiliate marketing, right? Look for affiliates. Look for, hey, if you're talking about psychedelics, why not affiliate with somebody that has a grow kit, right? And it could be some type of barter. Hey, you know what? Come and be a guest. You know what I mean? You send me all the grow kits I need. Just, you know what I mean? Whatever that is. Find those partnerships. That it doesn't. We're always chasing that dollar, right? I need to see a check. We're in a situation where not everyone's at liberty to write a check. There's a lot of people saying, okay, well, what is my ROI on this? What's my ROI on a product that I have that I might be able to give out as a sample that you can use to, you don't have to then buy my kits. You have my kits, but then it's also, we're cross promoting. So finding that affiliation that you can cross promote with them. And then even then, hey, we're affiliated with whatever bags, use this code and I get some money.
That's right.
I mean, so there's all these little ways, right? Are we not going to be happy until we see that $1 million check?
Yeah.
If I can see $1 million $1 checks, you know what I mean?
I'm fine with that too.
I'm fine with that too.
Legal tender.
Yep.
So I think it's really interesting you bring up the affiliate networks and, working with so many of the conferences personally and seeing what's happened in the areas of sponsorship for, legitimate, let's say, legal brands versus all the fun and crazy stuff going on in the underground. George, I'm going to throw one screen up while you talk a little bit about, or I'll add an image. And this is a personal project. So disclosure, I'm involved in this personally, but I also think it's timely to bring it up. And you guys did it. So George, maybe share a little bit about what you've seen around monetization, good, bad, and ugly. And I think you've had some recent success. I don't know if you want to name names.
Yeah. So I think over the last 10 years, we saw a sort of exodus from brick and mortar to virtual. Like everybody went online. But I think looking forward to monetization, the next exodus is from online to brick and mortar. And one way I've seen success in this now is that there are some local places around where I live in California that are starting up their social media. And they had come to me, George, we saw you do some social media. Can you help us out? But the transition from online to brick and mortar is, look, let's do a live podcast from your warehouse. Let's invite people from the community that are already doing things. We can interview them there. We'll do it live. And then we'll use that live content from an actual event as our clips, stuff, much like Kat and Jacob are doing. I think it's a brilliant strategy. And I think more people online that are doing podcasting look to translate your skills from the virtual world into the brick and mortar world, because ultimately, like, I believe media is moving into a more meaningful content. It's nice to have the clips that are flashy and stuff like that. But if you have a product or a service, you want your social media to reflect that. And nothing comes better to that messaging than the actual conversations with, people that are in the warehouse, that are working on the assembly line, that are packaging things. Like, that is great content. And that's the kind of content that I think is going to turn into more monetization for an individual who's in the world of podcasting at this point in time.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, you bring up that image, George. I just wanted to highlight this.
Of course.
So this is a work in progress. Oh, nope. Keep going. It's the last one. There's tools, more tools. Keep going.
Yep.
Let's see. I only see these two right here.
No, you should be able to keep going. There's two more.
A little plug for StreamYard.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
Rip needs a little love.
Full disclosure, we're getting
There we go.
10% of every StreamYard Riverside.
Hey,
There we go.
Where's those deals?
And use code blah blah
Yeah,
blah
there are
blah
those
to
deals.
sign up for StreamYard. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, those are those deals too. Look, if you're using StreamYard and you promote
100%.
StreamYard, why? And StreamYard's sending you a couple bucks.
Yep. They've got an affiliate code. You can put it
Yeah.
right onto your show. You can talk about it on the air. Exactly right.
Yep.
So
Smart.
this is a work in progress, very, very early days. You can tip your hat to Greg Schenken in Colorado, involved in Gloss and the Colorado Psychedelic Society. And he has done some testing of several affiliate platforms and actually looking to roll this out for the plant medicine, psychedelic cannabis community. And so it's early days, and affiliate networks only work when you get so many people on the advertising side and the offers and so many people on the publishing side or as affiliates. But it's a pretty interesting way to overcome a lot of the challenges with the shadow bans, the deplatforming, the inability to buy AdWords around certain keywords or find certain markets, is that if you get enough folks supporting the specific segment that we're trying to cultivate and nurture, you're going to have a way to reach them here. So if you want to take a look at that later and you're a content creator, we can tell you more about it. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. And let's, we're getting close to almost 90 minutes. I don't know. I'm getting a little nervous, George. We can, well, I think I want to give everybody their time back and be thoughtful to the viewers. We'll see what editing magic happens afterward. So a couple maybe quick questions, and then I want to go around the horn and give you all a minute to think about a new project, something you want to promote, something you want the audience to share with others that would be worthwhile to bring up at the end of the show. Out of all the work that you guys have done with podcasts and podcast production, and maybe you're the exception, Brian, because you guys have a team at Beard Bros. Have any of you, I guess Cesar and Kat and George, have you ever outsourced? Have you hired someone to help you with pre-pro? Have you ever hired someone to do post-production? And what was that like? And was it worth it? Just curious about like getting help and paying for help.
I could chime in real quick. I had hired someone. I was left. I felt like I was left with a half empty bag, because there was a lot of tools or things that I could have gotten from another platform that I didn't get from them. So yeah, there was a whole bunch of good little things that they did that made the podcast a lot easier. But there was also things that I ended up doing myself, right? So do your homework, right? If you're looking for a producer, if you're looking for someone to outsource, make sure that they're giving up, offering exactly what you're looking for, right? And not, oh yeah, I'm only going to do this. But I mean, this one company we worked with, we wouldn't even get a transcript. We didn't even get a transcript of the podcast, and I was like, okay, how is that even possible? So yeah, just definitely do your homework. And look, ask around, ask for reviews, ask other people, see who they're working with.
Yes, ask me, ask us.
There you go. Ask Brian.
Kat, have you hired anyone or had any support?
Yeah, I've had help sometimes with editing the podcast. I would do all the editing myself. I preferred it. It wasn't a lot of necessarily creative editing. For me though, and I would say this to anyone, like editing for me is, I can't stand it. It's what takes the joy out of my podcasting. And it got to the point where I said, I have to change something. I either need to have somebody else, I need to offload this, or it is taking the joy out of me doing this right now, because it's so long, it's so many hours. I literally can't do it. And so for me, it was always worth it. But then it needed to be like, that's also because I had gotten to a place with the podcast, at least where I was, breaking even basically by getting editors. It was just going right back into it, basically out of the joy, right? Like I was paying for it just so I can keep doing it, because I knew that there was going to be no way if I didn't get help with it. Even with Autopod and things like that, I ended up, it still took so much of my time that that is the one place that I'm really looking at OBS and live as the way to get out of the way with that, because editing is that thing for me where I'm like, somebody do it. I'm very happy to offload that. And if people love it, great, do it. But for me, it was pretty crushing for me after years of it. So as a non-editor. So yes.
George, have you hired any help pre-pro or post or anywhere in between?
just sparingly. I think as an individual creator, you should try to do everything yourself in the beginning. That gives you a fundamental understanding of just how difficult it is. Like when Kat's talking about editing, it's so much work. You want to put in this song, you're so critical of it, and it eats up all of your time. But it's an imperative lesson for you as a podcaster, someone in media, to understand what that process is like, so that when you do hire someone, you realize this person knows what they're talking about, or hey, I think I could have done that. But I think it's a necessary step when you farm it out. For me, I don't farm out anything. I've had some people, I've gotten into trouble where I had a few audio problems where there was like glitching in the background, and I farmed that out to some people. You can find people that will do an episode or two for free to show you their work. So I would recommend, if you're new to the game, test out some of this free stuff, because there's a lot of talented people out there that will showcase their work, and they'll do an episode. If you find like 4 or 5 of them, you can get 5 episodes edited for free in that aspect of it. But I would recommend doing it yourself. And I farmed out a little bit, but I find joy in trying to do it myself. And I should probably ask for more help from time to time.
I like the free trials and
yes,
people. I also like low cost, right? Like if someone's $100 an hour to do post-production editing, maybe offer them 25 or 50 and just be like, hey, I don't want you to do it for free, and I know what your full rate is. So if we end up working together long term, but let me at least pay you for your, some of your time, or kind of being thoughtful, because they're giving their time and creativity as well. Yeah. So one of my favorite shows is that Hot Ones. With the where they have the hot wings. Yeah. So into the show, this camera, that camera. Let's go around the horn. Brian, what do you guys got coming up at Beard Bros? I know MJ BizCon's right around the corner, and you're on fire with all your different ventures. What's the hot topic?
Thank you very much, first of all, Christian, and all of you for this awesome conversation. Really, really appreciated it. It's good. I look forward to doing it again sometime, to be honest. Go to beardbrosfarms.com. That's beard farms with a PH, and you can find a lot of good information there. Yeah. Gearing up for Vegas with MJ BizCon, continuing to onboard tons of clients. We help you grow. Like, that's what we do. We help all sorts of businesses, not only just in cannabis, hemp, psychedelics, mushrooms, everybody ancillary to it, wellness companies. We continue to grow at a nice clip. And then, of course, we have a product line, RSO products. You can go catch those in California, Massachusetts, or Missouri. Feel free to use our store locator to find one near you. Thank you. And of course, check out the Beard Bros Media Network on YouTube, because that's where all of these podcasts that we do are mostly residing. And so thank you very much for the opportunity, Christian. I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks for coming, buddy. Cesar, what's popping?
Well, of course, check out cultivatingwisdom.net, the apparel brand where you can manifest the fact that you're using psychedelics without looking like you're going to a Grateful Dead concert. Not that there's anything wrong with tie-dye. We love some tie-dye. But if you want to have an honest, open, and objective conversations, you'll look a lot better having Cultivating Wisdom apparel. Also, obviously, microdosing over 50. If you are over 50 and want objective information about microdosing, check that out. But the biggest thing we have on our plate, Christian, right now is this thing behind me. This is a collector's item masterpiece that we're auctioning off right now. I'm going to put the auction in the link. We're starting bids on Monday. I collected signatures from pretty much all the important past, present, and future people working in the psychedelics. Everyone from Paul Stamets, Rick Doblin, Cat Walsh, Hamilton Morris, which Christian had a wonderful picture of me and Hamilton. So thank you for that, my friend. And everyone else that's really making a difference in the psychedelic space. So it's up for auction. Part of the proceeds are going to go to the Pearl Institute, a wonderful institute in Asheville, North Carolina. Part of the proceeds are going to go to MAPS. And part of the proceeds are going to go to a foundation working with indigenous healers in Colombia. So the link is in there. It is a high ticket item. It is a collector's item. This will be definitely a piece of history. The auction will end December 2nd, Giving Tuesday. So if you have that type of flow and you want to give somebody a wonderful gift, I know that there's not a lot of people with office spaces left, but this would look awesome behind any pod setting. So definitely look at that.
So bringing it home, and I think I have an image you can throw up there if you want to. There's the Beard Bros, and then the shirt if you want to bring that over. And yeah, that shirt has seen a lot of interesting characters and a lot of great stuff. So So yeah, check that out. Kat, what do you got coming on?
Yeah. So right now, social media is my most active thing right now. It's at Life with Kat Walsh, Kat with a K, on TikTok and Instagram. TikTok is more storytelling stuff, and Instagram is in storytelling light. Different kind of audience and vibe there. I am going to be, if this solo storytelling podcast, Life with Kat Walsh, is available now. And I'm rebooting it as Cat's Meow podcast, realistically, the beginning of 2026. And that podcast is going to now be kind of like a hybrid. It's just going to be my next journey between, I would say, like a kind of a mix between Trip on This and Life with Kat, where it will be a hybrid between solo conversations, probably predominantly, but then also conversations as I want. I think for me, I just needed like a creative space to do what I want. You know what I mean? Like that's very much part of my personality. I don't like to be confined by what a format. And I'm like, you're in charge, girl. Do it. So yeah,
do what you want.
Yeah, totally.
Go.
So Trip on This is going to live as this like archive of conversations that people can, they're timeless. So much of this podcast is about storytelling. So these are people's stories that are not necessarily, there is some stuff with like research that's going on. I launched this actually right before, I won't go into that, but anyway. And the other big thing is, so that's Life with Kat, is going to be turning into Cat's Meow podcast. And then I'm going to be relaunching my website, and my big thing is just focusing on hosting more events. Hosting, I was telling Brian the other day, like I want to host a TV show.
Sure.
I like literally want to be like Ancient Aliens meets like How to Change Your Minds. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to keep saying it now until a producer's like, who we need, and maybe
That's
like
right.
house music. I don't know. I'd be like,
manifest that.
Yeah, and I'm also a DJ. Cat's Meow. So I'm always like, doing a lot of interesting shows and events. And yeah, if you need an electronic music house DJ, you know who to reach out to.
Boom, boom.
Thank you. And thank you, Christian and George, for this lovely conversation. Everybody, obviously y'all are podcasters, because this was a lot of fun.
George, final shot. What do you got going, buddy?
Nice. Thanks to everybody for being here. I'm stoked to be in all your guys' presence. I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I got a few things coming up. First off, there's a movie coming out called iBogus Saves. I'm partnering with awake.net. We're going to be going down to Mexico and interviewing like Tom Leonard, Gareth Moxie. I think the Fishleys are going to be down there. So many cool people in the world of iBogus. So check that out. I'm going to have a GoFundMe for people that want to look into that or see what they can do. Second off, I want to send everybody over to Anselmo Ibogaine. I've been working with Tom Leonard. He's a phenomenal individual when it comes to changing lives in the world of people that might be struggling with addiction. Highly recommend. Check out the new site, Anselmo Ibogaine. I just partnered with Blue Morpho. Shout out to Maestro Hamilton, incredible individual doing incredible things in Peru. I'm looking to bring a group down there probably next year. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me. And additionally, if you want to know anything about podcasting, or you're looking at putting up a show or producing one, reach out to me. My name is George Monty. My email is GeorgepMonty. I would love to help you with that. And I got a lot of great connections out there. Christian, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
I thank all of you for making your time, and the wisdom shared, right? It amplifies the message. It creates ripples. You never know where it's all going to go. And we'll try this again in a few months. Maybe we'll check in early in 2026, see what's been happening.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome.
Thank you, Christian.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Much love to everybody. Much love.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Aloha.